time to get started. So I'm going to pull out my famous Fox 40 and go.
Ooh.
Famous because you can hear it from 100 yards away. And
But
in
most
the
of your
big-
players don't have hearing aids on.
Right, that's why I only blow one blast in that season. And then what we do as officials, if I'm at the line of scrimmage or in the back behind the defensive line, the minute the ball snapped and I have a legal snap, I spit the thing out so I don't accidentally blow it during the game. Because the worst thing you can ever have as a sports official is have what is known in the business as a chocolate whistle, because you wished you could swallow it. It's called an inadvertent whistle in the rules, and there's a whole new set of things that go on. It happened to me once. Well, I did it once as a rookie in a junior high game, on a varsity game at a little town south of Seguin. The most experienced guy on the crew was the referee. That's why he's called the White Hat, because he gets to wear the white hat. The rest of us will wear this cute little hat that has a helicopter on top, you know, one of those things that goes around. And back in the days, we wore these baseball-style socks and white knickers. If you noticed recently, they've gone to black pants, which I think is a great style change from what we used to. Getting dressed was a real chore in this outfit, but it makes a heck of a good Halloween costume. So let me get started. This is just one I dug out that is one of my favorites. It shows you what the equipment used to look like. There's an umpire who just recently retired after almost 40 years called Joe West, famous for the West Vest. And believe me, you need something to protect not only your chest, but your shoulder and your forearms. Because when they throw 90 plus miles an hour, foul tips get real close. Your shin guards have something that protects the top of your knee and around your ankles. And we have our plate hat that fits under the mask. And of course the mask, and ladies, in case you don't know, this is called a banana cup because of the color. And it's to protect you in case there's a foul ball that bounces back up and rattles around a little bit. Now, we'll talk about this later on. It's called a plate brush. But I have to start by making a disclaimer. Yeah, go ahead. Saying that these are my opinions and mine only. I have some rather sharp observations about the status of the profession, which is really getting more and more professional as it goes. I am not a spokesman for the Texas Association of Sports Officials or the Southwest Baseball or Football Umpires Association. So what I say is not to be quoted as coming from any other official agency. It's just my own little personal opinion. So let me get the clicker here and see if I've been properly trained, because everybody has a t-shirt with this on it. And in case you never didn't know it, everybody calls us zebras. And makes a real good costume at Mardi Gras. Now, this was a Mardi Gras party immediately after a certain thing happened in the Superdome in New Orleans that I will touch on in a little bit, that changed the way the sport is officiating dramatically and forever. But this was a few calories ago. You notice the white flag
I'm gonna pass this around, let everybody feel. That is just a square piece of cloth with a bean bag in the middle, and it's not weighted down except for the bean bag. But believe me, when you want to throw a penalty that's right over there, you can drop that flag right on the spot if you're really good. But one of the first things they teach you as a sports official, and they looked at me and said, "You're going to be an umpire, aren't you?" The flat bellies are the ones on the sideline that run up and down all the time. The umpire is the one who watches for illegal snap and holding and all sorts of illicit going-ons at the bottom of the pile. But one of the things they tell you is when your vertical stripes start looking like parentheses, it's time to retire. And Katrina helped me make that decision in '05. My workload at my day job kept me from being able to get away early enough to make to the game site on weekdays. So let's go on, and you can see I'm taking good aim. It was fun at Halloween parties. You'd find a good-looking young lady, and as she's walking away, you'd throw the flag and penalize her for backfield in motion. But we had all sorts of fun doing that. Barbara was the wannabe trainee, and she's going to play Vanna White to my Patch Sajak when we get around to asking questions and bring the microphones to everybody. Okay, I'm going to play this. This is a quick history lesson. And before I start playing it, this was done in 2022 when KTBC had its 70th anniversary. And I'm gonna, which started in 1952, which was probably the biggest thing that happened in Austin that year. And does anybody remember what the first thing they broadcast on the air when they first came on the air on Thanksgiving Day of 1952?
The Aggie game?
The Aggie game. So, whoops, gotta go back. Ah, come on, Bill, make it work. I was gonna play the big, oh, I know what I did wrong. No. I need more training on how the clicker works. Maybe this is the button. Nope. Oh, well. It's a little video that has Lady Bird in it and has film from the Aggie game where you look at the little choir boy outfits the officials wore back then, and has the UT jerseys artificially colored orange, whereas the Aggies are in black and white. Now, I've got another question about that flag that I just passed around. The original flag was red, okay? You know why they switched to yellow? TV. When was games first telecast? Late 40s, early 50s? Black and white TV was like people with red, green, colorblind. You get the flag on the field and nobody on the TV could see it. The referees could see it because most of them were colorblind. My dad had red, green, colorblind, so I learned how to deal with a colorblind person in the family. Oh, okay. Okay. While you're doing that, I'm going to keep yapping. But this is really interesting. Lady Bird talks, cactus is in it. Neil Speltz and Lady Bird talk about having Bill Moyers on their staff. And I have to admit that I have a certain Northeast Texas pride. I grew up in a little town near the Louisiana border called Marshall that people have probably heard of. Lady Bird went to the same high school I did.
Radio and television, 10th Nebraska. Come on in, we're showing you around.
I'm Casey Claiborne, and this is still KTBC's home. Obviously, a lot has changed since the early 1960s when Cactus Pryor stood right here talking about the new building they had converted from an old...
Are celebrating KTBC's 70th anniversary. Our station's rich history dates back to Thanksgiving Day, 1952. Good day, since Casey Claiborne has a look back.
I'm Cactus Pride, and this is home, KTBC Radio and Television, 10th Nebraska. Come on in, we're showing you around.
I'm Casey Claiborne, and this is still KTBC's home. Obviously, a lot has changed since the early 1960s when Cactus Pryor stood right here talking about the new building they had converted from an old YWCA. But
I did not
KTBC's
know
history
that.
didn't start there. It actually started back in
YWCA.
1952, Thanksgiving Day, 70 years ago. There would be no KTBC as we know it today without the Johnsons, Lyndon B. and Lady Bird. Making history as a female media mogul, Lady Bird used her family inheritance to buy the fledgling KTBC radio station, turn it around, and eventually expand to television. The Mount Larson Tower was the tallest structure in Central Texas at the time.
This is a magic wand that cast its spell through the air and onto the screen of your television set.
That first broadcast in '52, a football game, UT versus Texas A&M.
Oops. Yeah.
Kitchen, you could always
Look at the cute little uniforms that referees are wearing.
Is it security bill? Really, I would work all right. And we got all the engineering, all of the technical knowledge cued in. It was a test time.
The Longhorns won, by the way, 32-12 against A&M. The first KTBC studio was in that little brick transmitter building on Mount Larson. In less than a year, the station moved to the Driscoll Hotel. Finally.
Okay, that's enough of that. We'll get to the pass interference rule now. That's interesting to know that history here in Austin. And I want you to hear that Texas did win the game. This is the NFC Championship game in 2018 to see who would go to the Super Bowl. It was in the Superdome in New Orleans, and Drew Brees from Westlake quarterbacking the Saints. They never went to the playoffs since then. This terrible incident happened. And they're playing the Rams, who I think won the Super Bowl that year. So let's play it.
Quick snap. Breeze.
Now, what happens right there?
No flag. For
Watch
Tommy Lee Lewis.
Sean Payton go ballistic.
Joe Roby Coleman delivered a hit.
And then I'm gonna freeze frame it in a second.
Talk to each other.
Oh, come on now. Wrong way, Bill. Okay. I was trained on which button to push, and obviously I forgot which one I'm supposed to push. You can freeze the ball. It's right behind the receiver. The defensive back isn't even looking at the ball, and he absolutely flattens the receiver. Some people say it was helmet-to-helmet contact as well.
Quick snap.
Oh, okay.
Breeze.
There we go.
This is incomplete. No flag for Tommy Lee Lewis. Nikhil Roby Coleman delivered a hit.
Yeah, that's the button. Okay. Yeah, if we can keep it, there we go.
Quick snap. Breeze.
Yeah, I got it.
Pass is incomplete. No flag for Tommy Lee Lewis. Nikhil Roby Coleman delivered a hit.
Yeah.
The two officials talked to each other.
Look at that. And there was no they would show instant replay for the audience and the TV announcers, but the rule book didn't have any instant replay in it. Guess what happened the next year? The coaches had a little red flag they could toss and they got 2 chances per game if they got, and they got extras if they got it right. But that completely changed the game. And you know what? The NFL and the networks love it, because every time you stop action for 5 minutes for a instant replay review, you can slip into commercials. Believe me, the economics is what's driving a lot of this. So, I want to talk about 2 of our mentors. John Bible was a nephew of Dana X. Bible, who was the UT football coach. I think they recruited him from Nebraska in the 30s, and the faculty revolted because he got paid more than the president of the university. And he lasted through the early 50s, just before one other coach between him and Darrell Royal. But Bible, as I looked this up, died a year ago in July of internal cancer of some sort. But he was quite a character and very opinionated. He went to UT Law School, but he in the legal profession also had a difference of opinion, and he taught law at in San Marcos. My daughter-in-law, who was education major, had him for education law. And he worked the NFL on Ed Hockley's crew for 3 years. Hockley did several Super Bowls before he retired, and now his son is an NFL referee. But Bible was from the old school. If the game's a blowout, you don't throw a flag unless it's really flagrant. And he kept on getting downgraded because he just couldn't bring himself to stop the game and throw a flag. And so he went back to the college game, and I'm sure he was told, look, if you don't call something that's in the book, it affects the point spread. And that's the driving economic issue here. So he went back and ended up doing, he was the coordinator of umpires for the College World Series for about 10 years. And he also worked one national championship game. I'm not quite sure which one it is, but I know which one this fella did. He was a neighbor of mine out in Buda. My first officiating experience was with a youth soccer league that started in 1980, the year we moved out there. And I knew nothing about soccer, but a friend of mine was going to be the head referee for the local league, and they had 2 fields, 2 games on Tuesdays, 2 on Thursdays, one field bigger, one smaller, and then 4 games, 2 on each field on Saturdays. And he said, I can't do this all by myself. Can you help me? And I said, I know nothing about soccer. And he said, good. That means you don't think you know something. And believe me, the offside rule has changed 4 times since I first started following soccer. And I still don't understand. Battery died up there.
There's another battery than you.
Yeah, I thought that one of the 2, I may have hit it. Randy is the one who helped start our youth league association. His son played in our local youth league in Manchac. When we lost our regular high school umpires because of some change in their management, and we had to start our own homegrown. That's how I got hooked into it. And, after wearing the hat and the mask and all the other stuff, this was fun. This was real baseball, especially when you got up to the pony and colt league level. So I tried high school ball, and that led to doing football. But Randy did a number of interesting things, one of which was the very first national championship game with Steve Spurrier in Florida against Florida State. And they had played several weeks earlier, and the Florida quarterback had just gotten killed by the defense, and he was asked, are you worried about the rematch? And he said, no, we've got a real good referee from the Southwest Conference who knows how to control things. And believe me, I've worked, once I got to be in the upper division, I got to put my name in the hat to do a UT chain crew. The group on the sidelines that keeps the down markers and everything. I even had Mac Brown step on my toe once. He said, oh, so I said, Coach, you can step anywhere you want to. Don't worry about me. I'm just another blade of grass. But Crystal believed in preventive officiating, and I took some of the lessons he taught to heart. I would see him get in the middle of the pile with the big uglies and out you mama every one of them and tell them where to go and how long to stay there and how to behave while he was in charge on the field. And you never had problems. He also did the Ohio State-Miami game in Phoenix, where I believe Ezekiel Elliott was a star running back for Ohio State. But he also did College World Series, and when the Major League umpires went out on strike one time during the playoffs, he was one of the scabs they hired to work the divisional playoffs before they settled up. And my favorite Crystal story is in '98, he was at the end of baseball season, he was telling us he had to make a decision whether to go to Seoul in August to do the Olympics or Northern Italy in September to do the World Games. And we all applauded his decision. He went to Italy and let someone else do the Olympics. But he was quite a mentor to a lot of us in officiating. And one last Crystal story. He grew up just when Ben White was the edge of town, right behind where Central Market South is in the Western Hills subdivision or Western Trails. He went to elementary school there, and after about 3 marriages, he moved to Onion Creek Country Club and bought a townhome on the golf course. But he would tell the story where every season he'd get his gear out and clean it up and shine it up. Oh, forgot about the steel-toed plate shoes. Believe me, you don't want a foul ball on your toe either. And he would put his stuff on and stand in front of the full-length mirror in the bedroom and practice, you know. And his wife would walk in and say, "You vein is so big." And his theory was, if you look good, your calls look good. Now, he got his calls right, too. But his nickname amongst the officials was the Peacock, for obvious reasons. And he was quite a character. I may remember what I was going to talk about in a minute, but I had a minor lapse. So let's finish up here and get some questions in a minute. I don't know if anybody recognizes this brush, because I used it for about 10 years after this was filmed. But one of the first things they teach you in umpiring school is when you clean off the plate, you moon the center fielder. You do not moon the dugout or the stands unless you have a special message you want to send someone there. I only did it twice, in both in a youth league game, and I would do it and then smile real big while my head was down there, and nobody ever noticed it, but I've noticed it. Okay, I want to get this to play. Where did I put that stupid clicker? Oh, there it is. Hit it under the flag. Let's see if this will play now. Okay. Does anybody recognize this movie? It was filmed up here on, they Ben Affleck in the blue shirt. Filmed up here on Shoal Creek Boulevard at that Northwest District Park. Ah! You get, and that's why I showed the Norman Rockwell painting, because it shows you the old balloon protectors. When I first started, our equipment room had an old original balloon protectors. But we're gonna get one, the poor little kid that played that role couldn't get the ball to home plate on 4 bounces. And they had a stand-in for him who was a kid I knew real well from youth league tournaments, who was a freshman at Lanier at the time. But all the footwork you see is not Wally Wiggins, who was a McCallum freshman when this movie was made. But here's my one big moment. You'd never verbalize a third strike if they swing, but Linklater said, we need a big, loud strike 3, you're out. So, anyhow, my one moment in the sun. Oh yeah, I got $50 and a free lunch at midnight. A friend of mine was the home plate umpire in the movie The Rookie, when they played the district champion. The bigger ups got to do the scene that was filmed in, okay, come on, there we go. I'll finish up with that. The big scene was filmed at the park up in Arlington where the Rangers played, but I ran into him 10 years later. He had gone to work for, for the building permitting people as their HR liaison, and I went up to see him, and he had pictures of his family, and then one picture of him and Dennis Quaid, and he's in his umpiring outfit. And I said, "What the heck are you doing in that picture?" He had to, because his name's in the credit, he had to sign an actors equity thing, and got paid this standard scale for the one day scene. He said he had a dressing room with his name velcroed to the door. But he said the first year the movie was out, his monthly checks for his 1/100th of 1% of the profits added up to $10,000. And this was 10 years later, and he said with reruns he had just topped the 50,000 mark.
Wow.
I got $50 for that, but I think it's more famous than the other one. Now, back to Marshall. My high school class of '63 had a young lady in it named Julie Tittle, whose dad was Burton Abraham, better known as Y.A. Tittle. In our class, and every senior class picked a distinguished alumnus. And needless to say, he was our logical choice after the 49ers gave up on him because they had a younger, more mobile kid named Kilmer and another one with a good arm named Brody playing for him. They released him, and he got picked up by the New York Giants and led them to the league championship game against the Bears in Chicago. And this is when the last minute drive failed. They were down like 14-10, and they didn't make it on 4th down. And this is one of the most famous sports photographs of him in the end zone after that last minute drive failed. But he came and we had assembly, gave him the award, and he told a story, and y'all are sworn to secrecy too. I've never heard repeated anywhere in the media. He said, like any good Texas, he was born in, I believe, 26, and he died just before his 91st birthday. one of the few that escaped CTE injuries from that era. But he was, let's see, where was I? Oh yeah, he said that like any good Texas high school player, he wanted to come to Austin, this was 44, I believe, and play for DX Bible. And back then, recruiting was a little bit different than it is now. But of course, they didn't have NIL either back then. And they would get the athletes a good summer job with a lumberyard, give them hook them up with a boarding house close to the stadium, and they'd go to work at 5 in the morning and get home for a good lunch early afternoon. And after it cooled off a little bit, if they wanted to go down to the stadium a couple blocks down the street and throw the ball around, there was no rule that said they couldn't, as long as the coaches didn't come out on the field with them. They could sit up in the stands and watch. Well, after 2 weeks, he packed his bag and went back to Marshall. He said, "Mama, I can't play ball there in Austin. The town ain't big enough for the two of us." There was some kid from Highland Park High School that they matched him up as a roommate by the name of Bobby Lane. And he knew he'd be sitting on the bench or playing defense. Fortunately, Centenary, which was a good Methodist school in Shreveport, still played football. And at the last minute, he was able to go there and play his freshman year. And the LSU people found out about him, and that's how he ended up playing for football for LSU. He very famously beat Mississippi with a 50-yard run around the end, where the last guy on the end grabbed for him and missed, except he got his belt and broke his belt. And he ran the last 30 yards to the end zone holding his pants up. Famous story about him. And one last thing, and then I'm going to let y'all ask me some questions. Anybody recognize that face? I took driver's ed in summer school because I had a full schedule, and where all my other classmates were getting their driver's license the previous fall and spring, I had to wait till summer school. And this was a new football coach that had just moved into town.
Buck Phillip?
Close. There's Coach Ryan as line coach, along with the rest of the football coaches, Buddy Ryan. And I would have never known this if I hadn't gone into football officiating. We also did chain crew in San Marcos for what back then was known as Southwest Texas State. And my son was dabbling in it a little bit, so we'd go down there together and be the chain crew. And I didn't talk about it, but for the big games, the officials meet in the dressing room, and they have an hour and a half pregame. And and then they go talk to the coaches. Well, the facilities in San Marcos were not the poshest compared to Memorial Stadium. And they finally got tired of talking, and being shy and quiet, I piped up and said, "Well, where are you guys from?" "Oh, we're all from up around Shreveport." And I said, "I'll be darned, I grew up in Marshall, not too far away." And this one guy said, "Oh, my roommate was our quarterback and our pitcher and shortstop on our baseball team. He was from Marshall, and is it true what he said about having this guy coaching?" And it was, oh my God, I do remember Coach Ryan. Now, this wasn't Barbara, but I went back and found these pictures in my high school annual that obviously proved it beyond a shadow of a doubt. And my ex's response, "No wonder you drive the way you do." And Buddy was famous for developing the Chicago Bears, monsters of the Midway, 54 defense before he coached the Eagles and the Cardinals as head coach. But I had what I thought was a decent comeback. Barbara can tell you how I drive. I drive very aggressively, but defensively. I'm always reading the road ahead like they teach you in driver's ed, and anticipating and taking defensive maneuvers when necessary. But I try to get from point A to point B as quick and efficiently as possible. Barbara just grabs a hold of the handhold and turns her head. But does anybody here have a Austin College connection? Okay, if you did, the person at the bottom right was my 10th grade biology teacher, and all the sophomore girls were badly in love with him, even though he had a wife and 2 kids, because he's the closest thing I've ever met to Tom Cruise. His name's Bob Mason. He was hired back by the school he went to was Austin College to be one of their coaches. Ended up being their athletic director, and their big convention, their big multi-purpose building is named in his honor. One heck of a guy. So let me see if there's any. That's it. So questions? Anybody? Yeah.
What do you think about the automatic ball?
Oh, yeah.
System in the
Uh-huh.
Repeat the question.
It's, here, yeah. You can walk around when they raise there. I think it's very accurate, okay? What happens is they can electronically determine whether the pitch was really what the umpire said it was. You know, if the guy swings, it's a no-brainer. Obviously, everyone knows that, but if it's a close to being high-low, in or out, there's a signal that either the catcher or the batter can do, like put their hand on top of their head, and they go to instant replay. They even put it up on the scoreboard and sometimes, boy, thinking, and it's not just on balls and strikes. That was new this year. Plays and bases were reviewed beginning several years ago, and I've seen them split some hairs that just absolutely mystify me how they can tell the difference. I'm of the more of the old-fashioned point of view. If you call it the way you see it, and unless someone else in your crew saw something that you missed, that's the way it's going to be. Another quick story about Randy Crystal. When UT won the national championship with Vince Young the last time, the second game of the season, they went to Columbus, Ohio. And when there's a major intersectional game, so you don't have homer referees, the visiting team's conference assigns the referees. Guess who was the referee for that game? Randy Crystal. And he told this story. Brent Musburger, who did all the play-back then, just loved to get inside information from officials. And he would come and talk to them all the time. But he said, now, Crystal, I know you grew up in Austin, but, you know, whenever we identify the officiating crew, it's when you make a call of, you know, whatever, and we zoom in and we put your name and your hometown. What do you want us to say? Well, guess where he had bought his little town home? It comes up, Randy Crystal, Onion Creek, Texas. And nobody except the insiders knew. Both he and Bible went to UT. They first became famous when Dish Falk first opened in the late 60s, early 70s. I guess it was early 70s. And the two of them worked as a two-man crew on UT games, almost every game of the season, at least the non-conference games. But it was only until recently that we started adding a third and a fourth umpire in baseball. Now in football, the original was the referee, the umpire behind the defense, and the two guys, the head linesman was with the chain crew, the line judge was on the other side, so you could see the entire line of scrimmage and see if there are any fouls. And then the back judge, he was about 25 yards deep. And for back judge, the position was best known in a 12-minute quarter game as 45 minutes of boredom and 3 minutes of pure horror. Because the one time what you're doing out there matters is really critical. And you are out there by yourself. Your only other job is to watch the 25-second clock. Now they got two wing officials deep, and now they've added a second official next to the referee. And I can't even remember what that position is called. If you look on their bikes, they've got an R and a U and an H for headlines, and so the deeper ones are side judge and field judge. It's kind of interesting to watch them work together as a crew. And yes, sir.
I think I can speak
Yeah,
loud enough.
Stuart can make himself heard.
I worked with Randy Crystal.
Oh, you
At the
did?
controller's office.
Yeah.
And he was very famous as
Oh,
a
yeah.
referee. He was going to the Rose Bowl
Yeah.
in 1996. And so, just joking around, I ran into him on the elevator or somewhere, and I said, "Oh, Randy, you know, when you're out in the field, why don't you give him a hook 'em?"
Yeah, right.
And he did. I watched the game. I mean, I was just so intent on.
Very subtly, I'm
It was
sure.
very subtly. He called a penalty and, marked it off. And then all of a sudden, he's sitting there and I saw him, he didn't put it up, he put it down.
That's
But
Randy for you.
But I do have a question.
Yes, shoot.
You have to deal with both the players and the parents. Who?
At youth league level, yes, especially.
Okay. And so, who did you find more accepting of your decisions?
Well, I'll tell you how I handled it at the youth league level. And like I said, the nice thing about it is there was a fence between you and the spectators. The coaches you'd introduce yourself to, and every now and then there'd be a call that the one coach or the other had some question about, and they'd come out and I'd discuss things with them. And after a couple of minutes, I'd say, "Now, Coach, you've asked me to explain what happened, and I've told you what I saw and how I ruled it and why I came to that conclusion. And we're going to go back to playing the game, and we can do it one of two ways, with you or without you." And I never had a guy tell me, "You're full of it, I'm leaving," They all went back. There was one coach I thought was really good. He had some decent pitchers, and when the ball was released and about halfway to the plate, and I'm here to call balls and strikes, I hear from the dugout, "Good pitch." Was it a good pitch or not? It looked like it would be close, but that was a cute little way of trying to influence me. And I've blown a couple of calls that I had to admit that I'm sorry, I know I blew it, but we can't reverse it in these circumstances. In football, you're pretty much out there by yourself, where the eye in the sky is the thing that really is looking at you, not the official. And I'm gonna do one thing I usually start with, and I forgot. Julie's sister's husband is a retired WAC official, I believe. He's the eye in the sky in the booth with instant replay. And I had noticed this, but I hadn't really thought about it. He has a microphone as well, and every one of the officials has something in their ear and a little mic, and they talk to each other. Watch out for this. Notice that. Pay attention. Another thing I want to talk about briefly, if you're watching NFL games, there's a young lady from Mississippi who's probably pushing 40 now. They like to start them around 35 so they can work for about 25 years before they retire. And she's got this beautiful blonde ponytail. And she's on at least in the pro game, they switch sides at halftime. So they don't have the same coaches in their hip pocket the whole game and can't get influenced by too much listening to what the coach thinks about them. And after she had done a few games, the sports writers asked about her performance, and they said she can come back and work our games anytime she wants to, because she's better than 90% of the other ones. And the other ones are pretty good too. Another question, anybody? Okay, yes, sir.
Did you ever officiate baseball games with a guy named Wade Phillips?
Of course. I think
Did
I
he
had.
make it to the pros?
Trying to remember which one he was. There was one guy who worked for the Highway Patrol that was a good skater and ended up doing professional hockey when the ice bat started. I know the name. I'm trying to place it. It's been 25, 30 years since I retired.
I hadn't seen the guy since I was a freshman in college. So
Yeah.
I just wondered if maybe.
I know the name. I just can't place it right now. Google will probably help me out if I have to. But any other questions? I know I can fill another 15. Yeah, Rudy.
Yeah, Bill, do the players, football players play pretty rough and bang each other around? Do they ever try to accidentally bump into the referee?
No, but I've nearly been killed by a stupid player who was too dumb to outrun the guy chasing him and got knocked into my knee and ended up getting a knee replacement a couple of years later. I already had a problem with the knee, and that was just the icing of the cake, and this was right when Katrina happened, so I had several good excuses to retire. But most of the time, the referees will avoid any contact. I got one more good story. This is, again, one of Crystal's lessons about preventive officiating. And I had a chance to share a story with him. I said, I used your preventive officiating the other night out in Dripping Springs in a junior high four-banger. Now, the pay card we get to turn in, the varsity games have a contract that's sent to the administration, but it says you get $20 for a junior high game. This was back in the 90s. And then you get mileage. If you go out of town, the driver gets mileage. If it's in town, everybody got $5 or whatever. Let me put it this way: it saw me through through 2 years of a divorce until I met my money bags over here. But because it was not reportable income, I had to go through a certain financial procedure in that instance. But I told Crystal that I used preventive officiating in the junior high game. They play a running clock on the B team game. It was just so grandma. Oh, that's another one. on the throwing penalty flags, especially at the lower level, junior high and freshmen and so forth. If grandma can see it from the top row of the bleachers, call it. If it's a little ticky-tacky one, especially with these junior high kids, or ref, he's holding me. And, you know, they're just bumping heads and holding on to you. And I said, son, you're just dancing with the other guy. If you try to get away from him and he grabs you and pulls you, then I can throw a flag. But if you're just hugging each other, y'all are doing nothing but dancing. And usually they look at me like I'm crazy. And these two kids did the same. It's Fredericksburg's Battling Billies, if anybody knows what a billy goat is. And Dripping Springs is the Tigers, but the kids in Dripping Springs know what a goat is too. And the 7th grade B team, and they have like an 8-minute running clock. You just start the clock. If they take 2 minutes between plays, well, that's their problem. And they kick off from the 40, it goes about to the other 40, and they end up around midfield. And I'm with the chain crew across from the press box, and the ball is on the other hash mark of the field. So they come up and line up, and the two little butterflies that shuffle plays in come out as split receiver, and this defensive back comes out there right with him, and they get right nose to nose across the line of scrimmage, and the ball's snapped, and they go up the middle with the running back for 2 or 3 yards in a pile of dirt and unplug, and these two kids are going bang, bang, bang with each other. I blow my whistle, the loud one, 2 or 3 times, and they keep on, and I say, guys, play's over with, go back to your second down. Same thing happens, and I get a little more emphatic. Third down, I don't say anything with the whistle or anything. I just, fellas, you see that billy goat over on the other side of the fence? If you want to butt heads with somebody, go over there. But while you're out here, play football, not just boom, boom, boom. And I told Crystal, they looked at me like I was crazy, and they stopped doing it. Question? Anybody? I'm soliciting. I've got 5 minutes. Yes, sir.
I hate to monopolize all the
No.
questions.
There's no such thing as a dumb question.
Okay.
The only one that's dumb is the one you don't ask.
I saw a video on YouTube a couple of months ago, and I learned something about calling balls and strikes. And I made it to my age, and I never knew that the strike zone is actually a strike volume.
Volume? Yeah, it's in that area of the ether over the plate. And it's one of the things they teach you, you line up on the inside corner of the batter, whether it's left or right-handed, so you can see the ball, and then you can see over the catcher to see the outside corner. Up and down is a little bit easier, but some pitchers have a real good drop ball, and some of them have a real good rising fastball, and you know, you look and see how the batter reacts too. Yeah, the whole idea is if any portion of the ball crosses that box when it enters the strike zone, which is defined as the front of the plate, it can be a little high when it enters the strike zone, but if it drops into the zone rapidly, you can call it a strike. If it hangs, it's a ball. If it's got a lot of movement on it and it comes in on the corner and the catcher catches it over here, it's still a strike. The coach may disagree, but you're the one that has the best view there. And calling balls and strikes is a real art. You gotta act like you know for sure what you're doing, whether you do or not. You have to guess on a couple of them. And if you have to guess, usually it's a ball. Everybody, it's been a pleasure. I can go on, but I think I've said enough. I'm sure there's a story or two I'll think of later. Just ask me. And here's old Swalda to pack us up. Yep, good to go.